right, let's go back just a little bit.
Approach. This crew is focused on this approach. This mid-air collision occurred just below 400 feet above the ground. The National Guard helicopter, believed to be either a UH-60 or VH-60, Victor H-60, was presumably operating out of Joint Base Bowling, located right here. Here's where the helicopters operate out of. They have this procedure where they can dart across the Potomac River right across the final approach for these airlines. This is an approved procedure. Looking at the video widely published on social media, here comes the regional jet. We are looking to the south. The regional jet is heading towards us, doing the approach to runway 1 and stepping to runway 33. Here is the helicopter, the UH or VH-60 helicopter, approaching from our left. And he's approaching to the right side of the aircraft, coming from Joint Base Bowling, and the two collide right there. Now let's review the ATC data. First, let's check this out from ADS-B Exchange, where the two aircraft came together. So here you can see the regional jet doing the sidestep maneuver to runway 33, so kind of a left dogleg base end.
And then when you're looking at this numerology stuff and you see this...
Oh no, numerology, here we go.
Runway 33. Yep, don't pay attention to that.
Why would anybody pay attention to that? Are you shitting me right now? He says, don't pay attention to the numerology. There's a number 3 on screen. Are you for real? Is this real?
You know, and then you have PAT 25, PAT 25.
Who is Pat?
You know, is there any significance to any of this stuff? I mean...
No, there isn't. By the by, yeah, I believe that I might have the right to enroll with the tribe because I think my grandma is an enrolled member of the tribe. And if that's the case, I might not qualify as Aryan under Hitler's Nuremberg laws. I'm not sure. It just kind of depends. I mean, today we have genetic tests and stuff. And if they took a genetic test of me, then they'd be able to tell that I was not 1/4 Aryan. Or I'm sorry, not 1/4 non-Aryan, as is like legally required or whatever. They would see that I'm probably majority, I would say most likely I'm majority Celtic in heritage. Yeah, I would say so. My mom, her one side of her family is from Wales, and my dad is from Scotland. So I would probably, yeah, I would say Celtic mostly. But anyway, they didn't have genetic tests back then, but they do today. Back then, I may have qualified as non-Aryan. Today, I would not.
It's ridiculous, seemingly, to try to think like this, but I don't know. It's all just really weird, especially when you listen to the air traffic controllers, which I think that this guy gets to.
Brother, it's not weird. It was a plane crash, please. Why is he even going down conspiracy land right now? Like, what is the purpose here? What is he trying to accomplish with this? There's no conspiracy here, really. This is what unchecked mental illness looks like right here. This is it, if anybody ever wondered.
I'm going to get to you supporters. I see you commenting on the live chat. I'm going to get to you, and I'm also going to get to super chats. I promise. A lot breaking here. If you're just joining us, welcome on Rumble, on X, and on Locals, which is where we prefer you on Locals, obviously, because we need funding here.
Well, suck it. I'm going to be on Rumble.
But we're talking about this plane crash. Trump lashed out at Biden and the DEI efforts as his DEI hire, Kash Patel, is being confirmed. My name was brought up by Dick Durbin. If it couldn't get any more cringe than Dick Durbin. I'm a neo-Nazi, all these other things.
Oh, he absolutely is. Yes, 100%. Yeah, he's a neo-Nazi. No doubt about that. I don't know why he's even bothering to deny it.
And then also part of this mega enthusiast, TPUSA, super gay, conservative so-called influencer Rob Smith was on yesterday.
Conservative influencer, and he's super gay? How does that differ from regular gay? I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. Okay, let's continue. And why can't I find the solution to this? Did I already come here? I don't understand. I did. I already came here. I've been looking for the guy to kill, and I already killed him this whole time. I've just been wandering around. That sucks. Whatever.
he ran off. So we're going to get to that as well. We got a lot to cover here. Frankie Stocks is also in the green room. And Frankie, I know you can hear me right now. You should look into this joint base bowling and see what's going on there.
This is all done visually to runway 33 and the helicopter coming out of bowling and crossing right into its path. We'll listen to this audio just to get an idea of just how busy this airspace is leading up to the collision.
Here for immediate takeoff. 70 request.
L3 to zone 6.
Most of you say Romford to zone 6.
Pay for about 7.
7 approved.
National Guard, good evening. Air 1.
Dude is fabricating conspiracy theories live on air with us right now. Like, holy shit, man. Come on.
All of these communications are in real time.
Medevac Air Carrier 1, Washington Star, Just South Commodore 2, Nodder 0. Approved to Washington class, Robert, Space 4, Land Assured at Fairfax.
0 for Air 1, copy.
At 25, CRJ in sight. At 25, pass is CRJ.
This cloud has a aircraft in sight, precision separation.
Yeah, you asked him right there. Do you have the aircraft in sight?
Washington Star, 1 star, 32017.
Okay, that was it. That was the collision. Did you hear the communications? Pat 25 is the call sign of the military transport helicopter. That's priority air transport. We believe this is one
Don't
of the
know if
gold
that's
top
weird or
helicopters.
not. We don't know.
Why don't know if that's weird? What are you talking about? If what is weird? The fact that it has a call sign? Like, is that weird to you? Pat 25 is a weird call sign to you? He says don't know if it's weird. That means he's just got to sit here and think about how he can twist this into a conspiracy. Oh my God, bro. Get help, really. Like, urgently.
No.
Out of Washington, D.C. And the tower at DCA says, Pat 25, do you have the CRJ in sight? Now, I believe the helicopters are operating on a separate frequency from the CRJ, so I don't believe the CRJ hears the helicopters, but all this is being controlled by the tower there at DCA.
The tower that is federally staffed by federal employees, to my knowledge. Somebody correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on that. I believe that it's an executive branch. Let me phrase. I believe that it is an office under the executive branch that is staffed by the executive branch. That's relevant because Donald Trump fired a bunch of these people, like right before all this went down. And they're already understaffed and underfunded.
So the tower says, Pat 25, do you have the CRJ in sight? Pat 25 responds, have the CRJ in sight, request visual separation.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. There's no way in hell I'm getting on an airplane anytime soon. They're going to have to prove to me that they are safe moving forward. I will drive if need be. I will take a train, whatever, but flying, not right now. Maybe in the near future.
Standard procedure. And then the tower clears Pat 25 to pass behind the CRJ. For whatever reason, the helicopter did not see and avoid the CRJ and ran right into him.
Okay, like he's blaming it on the helicopter, or not really blaming, he's just saying for whatever reason the CRJ ran into the whatever. I don't know if that's true. I don't know the scenario. It sounds like he's coming to a conclusion on an investigation that hasn't really happened yet. So just be real skeptical of everything said here again.
All right. So there's the basic. He's going to continue. He's going to continue here. Let's see what he says.
Yes, straight in approach to runway 1, not the visual, and then did the sidestep to runway 33. And looking at the track log, the CRJ was on a perfectly stabilized approach. In other words, the CRJ was exactly where he was supposed to be, doing exactly what he was supposed to be doing. According to initial news reports, the helicopter involved was
and then you just wonder, like, well, yeah, so was whoever was on board this plane, are we going to get the names of the people that were on board this plane? And then there was also...
Yes, of course we will.
This weird reporting right away. I don't remember if it was...
You know, the helicopter pilots, their family, they didn't want their names to be released because they knew that this was about to be like super politicized. They were fighting to prevent the names from being released, but they were released anyway. And she was blamed, I believe it was a woman, about as competent as they come, as is about as competent as pilots get. But of course, she was blamed for being a DEI hire or whatever. This whole DEI hire thing, this is really clever. They found a way to say black people are inferior while keeping the goodwill of the rest of society who is horrified by racism. This is actually really disgusting and clever propaganda technique.
I don't remember who it was on X, but they had documented, they had receipts to say this. I mean, there was a news story originally that was reporting that somebody who had allegedly survived this had been pulled out and then died.
What? No. Somebody, he says allegedly, somebody survived a midair collision between a helicopter and an airplane. And then fell into water that was like 30 degrees or something, hypothermic within like minutes, and they didn't pull him out for like hours. No, that did not happen. I don't know what kind of what is it? Is this your source? Is that what it is? Are you sucking on the pipe? Is that the problem? Why is he even fabricating a conspiracy here when there doesn't need to be one? It's very clear what happened. Does everything need to be a conspiracy? Everything?
And I think they actually named that person, which would be really early and really weird. And so the CRJ pilot was doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing as he's landing. And then you just got to ask yourself, was this a military operation?
No, you don't. Why would I? Was it a military operation to, God, do you know how precise you would have to be to blow up a helicopter by running it into a jet? The jet moving at how many miles an hour? 200? I don't know what they're doing at that high above the ground. 200 miles an hour? Two objects moving at high velocity, and neither of the pilots are aware that they're supposed to run into the other. You're, as an air traffic control guy, you are trying to guide both pilots into each other. Like, what kind of delusion are we dealing with here? This is nuts.
Is that what this was?
No.
Did the Black Hawk crew do exactly what they were supposed to do also?
Oh, the Black Hawk crew knew then, is what he's saying. Why? What is the motive here?
Yeah, we live in times where the Department of Defense openly declares war on American citizens.
Openly declare war? I mean, I could say that rounding up immigrants, innocent people, could be declaring war on its citizens. I could agree with that. But first of all, they didn't openly say that they are declaring war. And second, that's not what Stu Peters believes. So I'm not even sure what he's talking about.
We have had DOD operations called COVID-19, for example.
Oh my God, get help, Stu. Okay, COVID-19 was not a Department of Defense operation. It is so insane to me that there are people out there that believe this shit.
Biological warfare, intentionally and for money, for a profit, for control.
No.
Unleashed on American citizens by your Department of Defense. That was a DOD operation that originated at Fort Detrick.
No, it wasn't. He's just making shit up right now.
The gain-of-function research. So you got to ask yourself, were these pilots doing exactly what they were supposed to be doing? Were they exactly where they were supposed to be on their mission to take down this CRJ and kill whoever was in there that was a target?
Why would they do that? Really, there are lower profile ways of taking somebody out. They don't have to do it in such a brazen, open, extreme way. Vladimir Putin famously put, I believe, polonium in the tea of some dude. I think he was a U.S. citizen, or he was in the U.S., or maybe he's in the U.K., I don't remember. And it was a big international thing. He put polonium in his tea at a bakery or something. Dude drank it, and he died. Or Kim Jong-un's brother, I think is who it was. They had that game show that they were pretending to run at that airport, and they got a couple of people to go up to somebody randomly and spray them in the face with something, and it was a big joke, and they laughed, and they're like, "Oh, that's so funny, I had a good time, thank you." And then they pointed at their next target that they wanted to spray in the face, and it was, I believe, Kim Jong-un's brother in this airport. And some random innocent bystander said, "Yeah, I'll do that," went and sprayed him in the face, and boom, he's dead now. Big investigation. The dude was completely innocent. That's the kind of shit that they would do if they wanted to assassinate somebody, really. But the lower profile, the better. You don't want attention drawn to what you're doing. And before you do it, or let me rephrase, before the CIA assassinates people or whatever, I think they tend to destroy their reputation first. Like Martin Luther King Jr., I don't think they assassinated him. Did they? I don't think they did that. How did he die? He was fatally shot at the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee, 1968. He was assassinated. Who did it, though, is what I'm wondering. I'm not sure who did it. Anyway, the CIA, I believe, or whoever it was, maybe it's the FBI, they demonized him into the ground. They made shit up about him, claimed that he was like having orgies with white women, explicitly white women, so that they could like make him hated by the right-wing media because, you know, these black men are trying to taint the bloodline of white people and all this other shit. Absolute insane delusion that Stu Peters thinks that this is where they would go. This. Like, is there anything knocking around up there? Anything. Really?
60 or one of these gold top VH-60 helicopters operated by Bravo Company 12.
I mean, I know it sounds crazy.
And that didn't, like, give you the clue that maybe you should reanalyze what you're saying here, really?
You're not supposed to talk like that.
Look, I don't care if you talk like that. You're just a fucking nutcase, and everybody should see that for what it is all.
Right in the wake of this tragedy, we're supposed to be mourning the loss.
Aviation Battalion.
But I hate these people.
Davison Army Airfield on a training flight. So there were just three crew members on board the helicopter at the time of the collision. There were no VIPs being transported.
No, you wait. What was that he just said? Did anybody else hear that? Was that just me that heard that? Did you say no VIPs? That's interesting. Like, no people that were relevant or important in any way? Nobody that the government would have any interest in offing, if you will? Huh. How is Stu Peters going to get around this one, I wonder?
At the time of the collision. Regarding TCAS, the Traffic Collision Avoidance System, it's believed that the helicopter had this equipment on board.
So, I mean, he just said that this helicopter is used to transport like dignitaries and high-profile people, right? That's what this...
So there were just three crew members on board the helicopter at the time of the collision. There were no VIPs being transported at the time of the collision.
So he said the exact opposite of what Stu Peters just said then.
Regarding TCAS, the Traffic Collision Avoidance System, it's believed that the helicopter had this equipment on board. These regional jets certainly had this equipment on board. But remember, TCAS does not give an RA or a resolution advisory below 1,000 feet. So instead, you will just get the traffic and the diamond lighting up on your screen, but it will not tell you to climb or descend below 1,000 feet because you're simply too low to be given a descending resolution advisory that would descend you right into the water or right into the terrain. So below 1,000 feet, TCAS resolution advisories are inhibited. The weather was good at the time of the accident. The winds were gusting out of the north, 15 gusts 26 knots, but for whatever reason, the helicopter pilot did not see and avoid the CRJ as he was directed by ATC and as he responded to ATC saying that he would pass behind the CRJ.
So he acknowledged that the CRJ was there. See, before I was under the impression that they were on...
I'm not even sure that that's accurate. Is Stu just making this up? I didn't pick that up from what the dude said. Maybe, and I just wasn't like listening closely enough.
Different channels. And I think this guy just said that they were on different channels where the planes are not hearing each other.
Well, they're on different frequencies because they operate on different frequencies, to my knowledge. But the air traffic control people are the ones that communicate on their behalf, right? It would be impossible for like all of these planes to be on the exact same frequency, listening to like all of their conversations. I think that's what air traffic control is for.
But air traffic controller, ATC, is talking to both of these aircraft on their respective channels. The CRJ is doing exactly what it's supposed to do on a calm day, no weather issues, very routine landing, doing exactly what it's supposed to do. The chopper acknowledges by radio that not only is it going to fly behind, but that it sees. So it sees it and it's going to fly behind it.
I didn't catch that. Maybe, and I'm just missing it, but I don't. Yeah, I didn't hear that.
But maintained this direct collision course right at an American Eagle passenger plane.
Okay, there's a conspiracy. Why do you make a conspiracy out of things like this? Really? Like, what's the purpose?
You see what I mean? I mean, that just doesn't sound like it adds up to me.
Investigators will need to determine, did the helicopter even have his transponder on and operational? What were the two different frequencies that these pilots were operating on?
Yeah, this is a really good lesson in how conspiracy theories are fueled by delusion. This is a good lesson in how conspiracy theories are invented. This is just out of whole cloth fictitious nonsense, all of it, every bit of it. And he's in real time fabricating this complete trash. This is really interesting. It wasn't routine. They had to change runways, says stickers for cookers. Okay, interesting. Well, nobody accused Stu of A, being the brightest bulb in the box, and B, having all the information before jumping to conclusions.
And this background lighting can make it difficult to see these objects at night. And the bright landing lights of the CRJ, you're not going to see if you're approaching them from a beam. Or did the helicopter crew confuse this aircraft that was taking off for the CRJ, but that aircraft would have been well off to the helicopter crew's right? The first major airline aviation accident here in the United States since 2009. If we get more information, we'll post it here.
In 16 years. That's nuts, right? I mean, this should be kind of throwing up red flags for people, seems to me, right?
See here.
That maybe Donald Trump made a complete mess out of things and he needs to fix it, but he's always got to blame somebody else for the problems. Wow, look at this. I don't know who this is. Juan Blancalirio? I'm unfamiliar, but this is a Nazi symbol. It's shaped identically, like the way that the spokes. Well, you know what? I guess suppose it's possible that this guy talking about planes could be. Yeah, I suppose that this could be a turbine. It's super oddly similar to the Black Sun, though. It's called the Sonnenrad, or Sonnenrad, probably. And it's also known as the Black Sun. It is a Nazi symbol. It's used in shooter manifestos and stuff all the time. It's on flags, Nazi flags. Nazis get tattoos of it. Neo-Nazis do all that stuff. So I believe it's an old Norse rune. Hitler actually thought, I don't know. Hitler's views of Norse mythology were complicated. But Himmler was absolutely out of his head drunk on Norse mythology. Believed all of it was 100% real. Like Odin, story of Odin and Thor, believed it to the bottom of his black little heart. Or the hole where his black little heart should have been. It's called the Black Sun in English. Wow, I thought I paused the game and I just got bodied by this dude. The Black Sun. Sonnish is sun. Sonnig. Sonnencreme is sunscreen, for example. So, what was the word? Sonnenrad? Is that what it was? I'm not sure what that word means. RAD, but yeah. Isn't that red? What is that? No, that's rot. Let me just, out of curiosity, let me see if I can translate it. Wheel. It translates to real. Sonnenrad is sun wheel, apparently. Yeah, okay. I guess it could be a jet engine. I can see that, I suppose. Wow, dude, jet engines look disturbingly similar to the Black Sun Nazi symbol. That's crazy. I had no idea they were so similar looking. Seeing it on Stu Peters automatically makes me assume it's a Nazi symbol. I mean, when he says things like, hold on. Let me pull it up here. 1 second. Wait. Here we go. When he has guests on that say things like this, it makes me automatically assume that everything that he talks about is a shout out to Hitler.
They have to say these outlandish things.
They being historians.
To make up for the fact that if it weren't for this sort of ridiculous, cartoonish death narrative that
about the Holocaust
we've been sold, a lot of people would be looking at the 1930s through 1940s saying, not only does this make a lot of sense, not only does this kind of all add up and history play itself out in the way that we'd expect it to, but there's a lot of similarities to today. And you can't afford to have people start to make those connections. So they come in with this just outlandish narrative
About the Holocaust.
where if you put it in a movie, people would say, I didn't like that movie because I just thought it was a little too cartoonish. I didn't think it was realistic. And that's the narrative we've been sold. And to make Hitler out to be this obscene monster, that's the only way they can essentially remedy this story so that you can say it's clear who the bad guys were and it's clear who the good guys were. Because when you take that part out of the narrative, then it's not really as clear who the evil ones are.
That's right.
So you have to make them evil in order to sell people this story. And now, just as popular culture wise, very clear who the evil one is. Obviously, the evil one is Hitler, and very clear who the good guys are. It's clearly, the Jewish people and the Allies who came in to defeat Hitler. But is that really what the story is?
Mm-hmm. Don't you dare question it. But the writing is on the wall. Those people were pushed to a breaking point, and they broke.
Talking about the Nazis in Germany. Are you seeing why I say that, like, pretty much anything I see on this dude's channel, I suspect to be a Nazi symbol? I guess in this case, it's probably a jet engine, a turbine, or whatever. But, okay, I stand corrected. Let's listen to this Nazi a little bit more, shall we?
So, Frankie, here's what we know. Flight 5342, a Bombardier CRJ 700, had 60 passengers and 4 crew members on board, a total of 64 souls. The 3 troops on board the helicopter, which
I see people saying, wow, holy shit, Nazi apologetics. You think that's bad? Oh, no, that's not even the worst of Stu Peters. I have like 6 more clips of this guy outright, like, praising Hitler and saying that he did the right thing and shit, that he was a hero. For this, wasn't Hitler a hero? I mean, real psychotic stuff. Does not end there.
which was a Sikorsky H-60, also known as a Black Hawk, were conducting a training flight. Rescue crews have recovered what I'm reading here now, officially 28 bodies as of the time that this was printed out for me just before we went live. 28 bodies from the plane and 1 from the helicopter. Confirmation of the deaths.
1 from the helicopter. I didn't hear about that one. Maybe I missed it, but yeah, I just don't trust anything from Stu Peters' mouth by default. Being the Nazi that he is, of course.
Of all on board would make the crash the most fatal aviation disaster on U.S. soil in 23 years. Among the jet's passengers were U.S. figure skaters, coaches, and relatives returning from a training camp. Russian media said 2 former world champions, a married couple, were on board. President Trump blamed diversity programs for the crash without citing evidence, injecting a partisan note just after sounding a moment of unity and grieving. All right, on the plane crash, what say you?
Like injecting a partisan note when we were grieving. Yeah, that's one of Trump's defining qualities, blaming everybody else for problems. In fact, that's not just Trump's method. That is the story of fascism in a nutshell. That is fascism. That is what fascism does. It produces hate and vitriol and blame for every group, or for very specific minority groups. In Germany, it wasn't just Jews, but those were eventually obviously one of the primary targets. And that was the target that got people revved into a blood frenzy the most, probably. But it was also communists. And they didn't really blame disabled people, but they believed that they didn't belong in Germany at the very least. So they were a minority group that was also demonized. In the US, we have immigrants. We have black people. When they talk about DEI hires and stuff, that's what they're talking about, black people. And we have trans people. It's a really big one that's demonized all the time. This is the nature of fascism. This is how it works. This is what it is. I mean, it's laid bare here. It's pretty clear.
I'm with you. I think this is a really bizarre situation. I, too, immediately, once this happened, just alarm bells just from really everything that we see day in and day out in this country start going off and saying,
dude, in this game, these little guys that are running all over the place, they are so annoying. It's obscene. I can't stand it. Ugh, God, I hate it. This game, they shouldn't have made it so you have to walk up to them to get, like, their ability to activate. They should have made it a controller hotkey. Like, hold L1 and L2 together, and then one of the arrow keys to determine like which power you want to activate. And you could have had them like running around the battlefield too if you want, but don't make it so that like when you walk past them to swing your sword, like you're activating something. Like it's so frustrating. Holy Christ.
And is there more to this? We're obviously going to have to look into it and see what we can find out. But immediately it did draw comparisons in my mind, at least some parallels to a situation back in 2023 when a plane violated airspace over DC. It was a private jet, this one, and fighter jets were scrambled. They actually broke the sound barrier. There was a big sonic boom. And
I mean, yeah, jets do that from time to time. I think I remember something about there being like a private plane that flew in restricted airspace in DC a while back. I don't know. I don't remember for sure. But like I said, don't trust a word out of any of these people's mouths. They lie for a living. This could be a completely made up story. Maybe I'm just misremembering. I don't know.
in D.C. that day, and this private jet later flew further down into Virginia and crashed in a national forest. And we were told that the pilot had fallen asleep, had gotten sick, and that it was a great travesty. And there were never really any other answers on the whole thing, but it
Okay, I don't remember that. What's he talking about? Is this real?
wiped out an entire family of a guy who was actually a pretty big time political donor. So I just, whenever something like this happens, I think it's weird. And it really, when you look at the video, you're watching like they're just going straight toward each other. I mean, I too have heard that the helicopter was on a different radio frequency, but then they're also saying that the helicopter acknowledged the plane and said, "I'm going to go around it, go behind it." So I find the whole thing to be extremely bizarre, and I do think they're going to have to confirm.
I got to say something here. I don't know who Barbara Russell is, but God bless you.
Okay, great. Yes, God bless you. Great. Why did he just bust that out? God, Stu Peters just drives me insane.
Are you seeing all of this in the chat? Are you guys seeing this chat? Barbara Russell is randomly just gifting memberships to the Stu Peters locals community. Are you seeing that?
Dude, this guy gets millions of followers, millions of people watching him and listening to him every single day. I mean, how many views does this have? I don't trust Rumble's numbers at all, but 215 comments. Okay, maybe it doesn't have that many views. I'm not sure. Well, anyway, I believe Rumble is padding their numbers, but imagine how much money this person must be donating to catch Stu Peters' attention. Like, seriously, he's like as big as David Pakman, at least. Bigger. In fact, some might argue he's way bigger than David Pakman. He's gigantic. Ginormagantuan, if you will.
That's amazing. That's amazing. God.
Yeah, Stu Peters just like interrupted this, dude.
God bless you, Barbara Russell. Look at this. She's just randomly gifting all kinds of people subscriptions to our locals channel where you'll have early access to documentary films like Occupied, behind the scenes and off the record segments with interaction via live chat 24/7 with yours truly.
Like, why have this guy on in the first place if you're not going to let him talk?
Wow. That's very cool. See, this is somebody who understands the importance of this information war and understands that we are the most effective weapon in it. I mean, that people can't be in economic positions that are very favorable for just going ahead and just buying random subscriptions for people that they don't know. And that's just really awesome. If she's got it, and she's putting it in the right place. And if she doesn't and she's scraping, that says even more. I mean, that is really awesome.
Okay, well, I appreciate the recognition for a fan, but both the fan and Stu Peters and the guest here are all Nazis. They are all full-blown Hitler-loving Nazis. So,
God bless you, Barbara. Okay, so your comments on Trump lashing out at Biden and then citing DEI efforts to hire, suggesting that could have been a contributing factor in this crash.
Yeah, I think that's, somebody typed that up back in the talking points room before Trump came out and decided to give a statement. That's like their typical cannon fodder right now, especially after the big.
Okay, do you know what cannon fodder is? I don't think that's a correct use of it.
Headlines over the past several days about DEI programs and grants being cut, which then, they're actually now they're going back on that. So it's kind of a hollow statement for Trump to make because, like you mentioned, they love talking about how diverse the Trump administration the first time was, how diverse it is this time. So this is just a diversity on one way or the other is a talking point and cannon fodder that both the parties are using against each other. I do think there's a really strong likelihood that not just in this situation, but in other mishaps all over the aviation and frankly the rest of the world, construction industries like that, where people are getting hurt all the time. I would imagine that there is a correlation, a pretty big one, when you start seeing DEI come in and take over engineering departments, take
Okay, you can believe that all you want, but you have no reason to believe that. Until you have reason to believe it, it's straight up delusion.
over the aviation industry and things like that. When you start seeing DEI hires come in, there's obviously going to be a huge decrease in how effective things are and how well they're run.
Why? Why do you say that? When you see DEI come in, you see things become less effective. Why do you say that? How can you possibly conclude that? You have no data. You're not citing anything. The only way that anybody could honestly believe that is if they believed that black people are just inferior to white people. They're just not as good. And if you believe that, then you're a Nazi. That is a Nazi belief. If you believe that black people are inferior to white people, you are a Nazi. Like genetically, if it's a genetic thing, you're a Nazi. That's it.
That's just the nature of the whole thing. But yeah, I don't know. You do hear a woman's voice, it sounds like, actually on the
Oop, DEI hire. It's a woman.
recording from the tower. So they could know already. This is a DEI hire, and she couldn't read the radar right or whatever. But I don't know. I think that honestly, when it comes down to it, I think that's just kind of a political hollow talking point. And we've already seen plenty from Trump to see that that is a talking point, because he's already going back on DEI defunding.
Trump is going back on DEI defunding? You telling me that Trump has decided that he does want to run DEI programs? I don't believe you, but okay.
There's a perfect example of DEI hiring.
Look, do you want to know what DEI is? I'll tell you. Here's a fantastic example of DEI. By the way, it's actually DEIA, the A being accessibility. It's not just about like black people or whatever. But here's a good example of DEI. They ran a study, scientists, that found that people with black sounding names are less likely to be chosen for a job, to get a job interview. If their name is like Tyrone on their resume, then they won't be chosen as often as somebody whose name is Fred or Jim. There's no reason for that aside from just like implicit bias. Doesn't mean anybody in the system anywhere is racist. It just means that this is like an outcome that exists and we have to correct for it. That's all. That's what DEI is. DEI programs try to make sure that that's not happening, that people are not being like discriminated against unintentionally or otherwise. They're not like actively choosing to discriminate against white people or whatever. That's not what's happening. The fact that DEI programs are being like undone across the country means that there is going to be full-blown systemic and other discrimination against people. They're going to be discriminated against. And it's sad and disgusting and horrific. And I worry about what happens next very much.
Sitting on Capitol Hill right now in a confirmation hearing. I mean, here's Mr. Padilla questioning Kash Patel. Kash Patel is, the nominated head of the FBI and, clearly not a white American. This is a DEI hire. So
just because he's not white does not mean that he was picked because they were trying to like be less discriminatory. Like when they say this, of course, what they mean is the only reason he was hired is because he's black. He is not qualified to do the job. He's just there because they don't want to be sued or something like that. These companies have DEI programs not to like stay within the bounds of the law, but because it's profitable. These people are not like, these companies are not required to have DEI programs most of the time. Certainly not required to do all the DEI stuff that they do. It's profitable for them to appeal to like an entire, demographic, an entire group in society rather than just like subsets of society, like only white people or whatever. By saying what he's saying right now, he is implicitly saying Indians, black people, Mexicans are genetically inferior to white people.
When a president like Trump is touting the most diverse administration and cabinet in the history of American politics, I just think it's pretty rich that MAGA enthusiasts are just eating all of this up, gobbling it up, making excuses, but it's not really DEI because it's Trump.
Well, it's not really DEI at all. You know, only I think 70% of the US is white. And Stu Peters is framing this like anytime a non-white person is in a position at all, any position, cashier at Burger King, it's because they're running this program to try to discriminate less. They have actively chosen not to hire the best person for the job because they don't want to be viewed as racist. He is just a bad person in his heart. He's just a bad person.
Kash Patel lied on Capitol Hill to Senator Dick Durbin about his associations with yours truly because he's playing chess. Don't you understand? He has to get in there so that he can then destroy the people.
Yeah, and that's entertaining as hell to me. We're going to get to that part. I think this is probably it. And tell me what you think about it in the comments.